the hoop became my haven. It became the place that I went to process, and I already loved basketball. Like I loved watching.
Mm.
And there was only one problem was that I was a basketball player stuck in a runner's body.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Beyond the Athlete podcast, powered by Basketball Nation. My name is Coach David. And guys, I really want you guys to really take in this episode. The gentleman that we have on today is one of a kind. I can read a lot of his accolades, but I will start off with him being a former Nike executive, now a consultant and speaker. Um, he was also my coach in when I was playing at Coventry University a few years back. Also, one of the best players that we've seen play in any of the leagues in the UK in years past as well. And I present to you guys Mr. John Olinger, also coach as well. Nice to meet you, sir. Again.
Hello, my friend. Good to
How
see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. It's been a while. It's been a while. We've been waiting for this moment to happen, basically, and now we're here.
Absolutely, man. I'm honored to be here with you. Pumped for what you're doing, and yeah, it's just funny as you do the
Mm.
intro and think back about the time where we first got to know each other.
Yeah,
So those were good times, man.
yeah. Very good times. I remember speaking to PRC, and I told him, oh, I remember those 7 a.m. workouts uh, at the sports center. But that those workouts really helped me progress, like, and develop as well during my time in Coventry. So I'm thankful for that. Definitely. I won't be here now if it wasn't for those days.
Man, those 7 a.m.
Mm.
workouts were fun. When we could fight off the
Yeah.
badmintoners to
That's
be able to
true.
get the
That's
court.
true. I'm going to start off by asking you my first question, and it's pretty much around. Obviously, I vaguely know your story of how you got into basketball, but I don't know anything beyond before college when you played a Willamette um, Bearcats as well. But it would be good to know how you got introduced to basketball, how you got introduced to sports, and sort of that journey basically to you even playing D1 basketball to come in here as well.
Yeah, of course, man. Is my journey with sport has been awesome.
Mm,
I'm so grateful for sport
mm,
because it changed my life,
mm,
and it's what gave me the opportunity to
mm.
see parts of the world and travel and do all that. But at the beginning, I was actually a runner.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't know if you guys actually call it that or if you just say, "Hey, I did athletics," but like I was a runner.
No.
So I did track and field. I did cross country. I was really good,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying that to boast, but like I was good. I was an All American
Mm,
in my like 9, 10, 11 years old, and my mom had been super involved in running with me, get me involved in the track club that was in my town, all that stuff. And then unfortunately my mom had breast cancer and ended up passing away. And I couldn't have told you at the time, but there was just this thing that flipped in me
mm.
after she passed away where my love for running just faded.
Wow.
And anybody who's ever been a runner knows that the only way to be a great runner is if you go out there and punish
Yeah.
yourself on a regular
Mm,
basis. Like that's how you become great.
yeah.
And I just lost the love of doing that. And so one of the ways that I channeled my hurt and my processing around my
Mm,
mom was I channeled it into basketball. And so there was a basketball facility in my town
mm,
that had opened like really recently around the time she died, actually.
mm,
It was called The Hoop. It had 6 basketball courts. You could be a member and basically go there anytime between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. And The Hoop became my haven. It became the place that I went to process,
mm,
and I already loved basketball. Like I loved watching.
mm,
And there was only one problem was that I was a basketball player stuck in a runner's body.
Mm.
So I'd been running when I was young, and so I was just super skinny and lean,
Mm.
not strong at all. And so I wasn't necessarily the best candidate to be a basketballer. But I just kept working, and like literally every day after school, my dad would pick me up from school and take me and drop me off at the hoop. And I'd stay there 3, 4, 5 hours until about the time where they were about to
Mm.
close. And so I just kept working and working and working. But like I said, because I was pretty skinny, and I wasn't like super athletic or anything for my age, like I was just grasping on
Mm.
to basketball by my fingertips. So like I played in middle school, in high school, in America, there's typically 3 teams
Mhm.
at a school. There's a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team. My freshman year, I was the last kid selected
Mm.
on the freshman team to stay on it. And if you would ask the coach, he would tell you straight up he kept me because I was a nice kid and I worked hard.
Mm.
But it wasn't because I was like amazing at basketball at
Mm.
that point. But I just kept working and working and working. And even my junior year
Mm.
of high school, I played 95% of the time on junior varsity
Mm.
as a junior.
Mm.
It's not a good sign. Like if you're a junior and you're on junior varsity, they're basically saying the writing's on the wall and basketball is not really going to work out for you as something beyond that.
Mm.
But again, I was ready to play. It was just a little bit circumstantial with the program and the amount of guys we had and whatnot. But I just kept working and preparing. But I was like, I almost quit
Mm.
that junior year
Mm.
because I felt like I was ready to play at the upper level
Yeah.
and really contribute.
Mm.
And I had to make a choice. And so that moment was really pivotal for me because if I would have quit, I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
have had basketball back my way. I don't know if I would have worked at Nike. I don't know if any of those things.
Mm.
But I just kept going and believing that if I prepared, that there was an opportunity that was going to come for me.
Mm.
And so my senior year, all the people in front of me weren't around anymore.
Mm.
And I walked into the start of that season, and the coach, my high school coach, handed me the keys to the team. And I had a great year, both in the regular season. I led our state tournament in scoring, and that's really what opened up the door for me to go
Amazing.
originally to Portland State University.
Yeah.
So I went there, redshirted, added a bunch of muscle,
Mm.
thankfully, and was playing really well. But then he resigned, so I went to a junior college for a year, and I could tell you all the details about that. But
Mm.
basically, like I got mono in the midst of that, and lost all the muscle I'd gained and all the progress I'd made, and then ultimately uh, ended up landing and spending 3 more years playing at Willamette University back in my hometown,
Mm.
and had a great career there. And wasn't necessarily planning on playing after that, but would have loved to. And about a year after I graduated, a coach from my team had asked me if I thought about still playing at all. And I was like, hey, I don't really know what that means.
Mm.
I was on the verge of I was just finishing my master's degree.
Mm.
I was on the verge of, going and getting a different kind of job, a real job where I didn't get to play hoops as my gig. But he ended up encouraging me. He ended up sponsoring me to go with an organization called Athletes in Action.
Mm.
And Athletes in Action is a Christian ministry organization. And at the time, we went on a traveling tour to Israel.
Mhm.
It's interesting, like in the midst of everything going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
But we spent half our time in Palestine, half our time in Israel proper. Had an amazing experience
Mm.
playing over there,
Mm.
and that was sort of like the gateway for me entering into pursuing basketball as a job for a few years. And
Mm.
it was through my coach on that team that ultimately connected me to Scott Neely, the coach in
Mhm.
Coventry,
Mhm.
and ultimately led me to come end up
Mhm.
playing there and meeting you, man.
Yeah. It's so crazy. I had 2 options of universities to go to at the time. It was either Coventry or Brighton. Um, and
And you chose Coventry, man.
yeah, but the reason why I chose Coventry was because my grades weren't good enough. Because I actually failed to get into Brighton. So Coventry was almost like, how can I put it? It was one of those universities that was like the last resort,
Yeah,
basically. But
yeah,
a lot of stuff that's happened in my life now has been from that place. So it goes back to what you were saying. It's almost like there's certain situations that you had to go through to get to where you are now. So even with a lot of the people I'm still with now, I met them in Coventry. Even my wife, even though she didn't go to Coventry University, but the way we met was based around me being in Coventry as well. And it's crazy how the people that I met in Coventry and her are all kind of like my circle now.
Wow.
So it's yeah, and that's not just in friendship, that's community, that's even in our belief as well, in terms of what we do within our church. Like we're all
Hmm.
part of the same community basically, and it's quite interesting that you never um, kind of look down on your process and your journey. So yeah, and it pretty much what you said as well is kind of the same as me. I used to get picked last on the teams just because I was the hardest worker and I just played defense. I wasn't like I think I only improved my offensive skills when I met you.
Hmm.
But apart from that, I was always a defensive player. That was always my way of getting into teams or getting to play, was just I wanted to guard the best player. And I'm sure they sent some trainers when I had to guard you, and you killed me. So it was just fun. So yeah. Um, okay, and going back to sort of like obviously your journey when you started playing at the hoop as well, what was that feeling like for you to make that transition? Because I always want to know how people felt the first time they picked up a basketball. For me, I always say the story all the time. My first time was in back in Nigeria. I was like under 12, and my cousin used to play, and we made a basketball out of rubber bands and made a hoop out of a wooden backboard and a welded rod. That was my first hoop. Not saying that we couldn't afford one, but at that moment we just thought we just wanted to be creative. We just wanted to play right now. We didn't want to go out and start looking for a hoop and a basketball and stuff like that. We wanted to play right now in my grandma's compound, and that's what we did, and we created that. So that was my first time, and at that moment, as much as I was like 4 foot something, I just believed I could dunk. I was trying all the time, but it was never possible. But yeah, it was an amazing feeling, and it's one of those feelings that's lived with me ever since. So yeah, so what was that? What kind of feeling did you have the first time you picked up a basketball?
I don't remember the exact first time I picked up a basketball,
Mm,
but what I do remember is there was down the street from my house, there
mm,
was another neighbor
mm.
that had a hoop in their driveway.
Okay.
And I think my dad played basketball in high
Mm,
school, and we always watched the NBA. So those are like my earliest memories of
mm,
basketball. So I don't remember exactly the very first time, but I knew that I used to just go down to this neighbor's house,
mm.
whether they were home or not, and I would just be shooting and shooting and shooting.
All right.
And so then
Yeah.
when the hoop opened, that was like really unheard of at that point in time, at least in our part of the country. Like to have a basketball facility with six
Mhm,
courts and beautiful hardwood floors, and you go there anytime you want,
mm,
and you can just stay. Like that was like a haven for me,
mm,
man. That place, and so um, I just remember it being a place for me to really process
mm,
and learn the
mm,
game and really figure it out on my own. This was like pre YouTube. There was no training videos. There was no courses. There was like the local trainer
mm,
who ended up becoming my trainer. His name was Rodney Howard,
mm,
and he trained me,
mm,
and he really is the one that I would say like really developed
mm,
me and helped me grow my skills tangibly. But besides that, I was just sitting there firing up shots, man,
mm.
just letting them
Yeah,
fly,
yeah.
hour after hour.
Non-stop. I know the feeling. I know the feeling. And okay, so now the transition from playing, well, athletes in action, going to Israel and Palestine. What happened after that? First of all, what did you? I don't know if you want to go into detail of what kind of work you guys did out there, because I want to also really hone in on the community and giving back side as well of your journey,
Yeah.
because I know that you've done quite a lot of that as well, other than just working for a big corporation like Nike or playing at a high level in sports, but that community side, which is quite important, especially to what we do here with Basketball Nation, is quite huge on our part, in the sense that we always believe that grassroots is always the best place to really invest your time and your money to grow a sport, whether it's a sport or a business or a project or initiative, like it's always the best place to start. So it would be great to kind of hear what that was like for yourself and the sort of experience that you had there.
Yeah, the trip to Israel was really life changing for me
Mm,
personally because it was where the Bible came alive for me. It
mm,
was where um, I got to understand for the first time, and like walking these steps that Jesus had walked. I
mm,
got to understand that the thing Jesus was asking for wasn't for a belief in my head.
mm,
It was for a literal pursuit in my actions.
mm,
And so I remember standing beside the Sea of Galilee one of the days into the trip, and our coach was talking about, hey, this is where Jesus uh, invited the disciples to come follow them. And when he said that, it was this realization in my head. Jesus was literally asking these guys to come follow him.
mm,
They couldn't actually say, "Hey, Jesus, we're going to stay here in our
mm,
boats and follow you. Like, go ahead, see ya, have like go on, keep
mm,
walking. Like, we're just going to stay where we're at,
mm,
and we're not going to come." It was a literal
mm,
invitation, and so for me, the like big picture went off in my head of, oh man, like I would say I'm a Christian, and I was a good person. I was a
mm.
Christian, quote unquote, but like that trip changed my life. And so I ended up getting baptized in the Jordan River while we were there.
Nice.
First time being baptized as an adult.
Mm,
And it was just a really pivotal moment of my personal
mm,
journey. And so during the day, we would travel around to all these biblical sites and see these historic places that were amazing that you read about in the
mm,
Bible. And then at night, we played a tournament in Bethlehem.
mhm,
And so for those who are not as aware, Bethlehem's inside the West Bank, so that's technically part of Palestine.
mm,
And so these were Palestinian teams that we were joining. So there are 8 teams from all over the West Bank that, and also who were based in Israel proper,
mm,
that came and played in this tournament. It was an amazing environment, all the things you would expect in a big European match
mm,
in this, like, I don't know, 600-person gym, drums, screaming, shouting,
mhm,
guards with AK-47s between the court and the crowd, all that fun
mm,
stuff. But it was such an amazing experience. And so we were there really to integrate with those teams, help out with their clubs a bit while we were there. And this was like part of an ongoing partnership that
mm,
Athletes in Action had going
mm,
in Bethlehem. So that was really special. And then, when I came off of that, I knew that I wanted to try to play somewhere else. And I wasn't opposed to playing there either if
mm,
an opportunity came up, but there wasn't an opportunity on a team
mm,
there. And so when my coach from Athletes in Action connected me with Scott in Coventry, he talked about the basketball team, but he also talked about, you know, getting to be involved in the
mm,
community and helping grow the game of
mm,
basketball in Coventry.
mm,
And that was really appealing to me. And it ended up being a really meaningful and fulfilling part
mm,
of my time there. Like it was great, like hooping and playing games and getting to do all that. But, the chance to see, especially in a country like England where there's not that much basketball development,
mm,
but to see the opportunity to pour into kids,
mm,
teach them the game, teach them life skills, and then even like literally last night I was watching a kid um, on Instagram who was a kid that I coached when I was
mm.
there, Callum Lawson,
Yes, yes.
and Callum, like I remember putting Callum through one-on-one workouts
Mm.
in this terrible carpeted gym in the old Grace Academy school, and you know he could barely do a right-handed layup,
Mm.
and now he's a professional basketballer,
Yeah,
getting to play in these different places around the globe.
yeah.
And so, not that every kid needed to become a professional basketballer, but like you had that spectrum of teaching life lessons, helping kids develop and find something they love, and then ultimately seeing like somebody like him as a great
Yeah.
example who caught the bug, so to speak,
Mm,
of loving basketball,
mm,
and it's totally transformed his journey. Came here to the U.S. to go to school,
mhm,
like all that stuff all because of the game. And so that was really, really important to me, and a really important part of my journey.
mm,
And even when I left England, that was what I wanted to take what I'd seen in England and come back to the US and use sport to impact
yeah,
people. And so those are the conversations I started having at Nike when I returned,
mm,
was like, hey, how do I get involved in some places that are specifically focused on using sport
mm,
to change people's
mm,
lives? And the reality was Nike was just getting started in that space, and they were basically like, hey, you got to find a different way in, because
mm,
we just don't have the
mm,
positions in that field right now.
mm,
And so for me, that part never changed, but it was a huge part of my
mm.
journey, and I'm so grateful for the chance to give back in that way.
Yeah, amazing. My next question, and this is pretty much knowledge for myself and whoever else wants it as well. Marketing is such a big part in sports at the moment as well. We see not just sports, but even just sports, not just sports as a activity, but even just, how can I put it now? Even brands like sportswear brands, etc. We're looking at on running now with Zendaya, like how they're marketing through her. And then we're looking at Adidas and what they're doing with the likes of. So I know I just mentioned Adidas. I apologize. The likes of oh, what's his name now? Yes, Anthony Edwards. How can I forget that? Anthony Edwards, um, Mitchell as well, who was actually in London recently as well. Donovan Mitchell, he was actually working out in London recently as well. So we're seeing the likes of those guys coming, like they're using those athletes as well as celebrities to market their brands now. So what's the great to hear from you, because I know you speak to people like Jordan Rogers as well. So he's just like yourself, huge marketing head, always following everything that he says. So what, like, how much of an impact is marketing having in not just the influencer side of things when it comes to sports, but also economically as well, because that always has to transition back to finances for the business. So what's that look like on your end from your knowledge as well? And how can we amplify?
So it's a great question. You know, the
Yeah.
the reality from my point of view is that how athletes market themselves, whether we like it or not, whether we think that it's
Mm,
good or bad or whatever it is, it's here, it exists. And,
mm,
you know, you take examples from our world, you could use like a LaMelo
mm,
Ball as an example, you know, who came up in the world where he was a YouTube
mm,
sensation, and he was, obviously had his older brothers and whatnot, but like, you still ask around, like
mm,
he is a favorite.
mm,
Kids love him, and they love him. They love his shoes, and that's because of the impact that he had on the internet.
mm,
As he was coming up, it wasn't because he's good. He's a good player,
mm,
right? But it wasn't because he was necessarily the best player. But you put a great player with good highlights, mixed
mm,
together with social, and you tell that story well. Naturally, that has a positive impact on them
mm,
personally. Does that mean to me that every
mm,
kid um, needs to go grow their personal brand? No, not necessarily.
mm,
But I think you have to be authentic to
mm,
yourself. You have to be authentic to you. If you don't want to be on camera, if you don't want to do that, then that's fine. You just have to know there's trade-offs that come. Just in the same way,
mm,
if
mm,
you are a social media sensation, there's trade-offs that come with that as well. And even if you think about Wemby and just like his journey,
yeah.
like he wasn't necessarily building his own platform. He had plenty of people who thought he was awesome and was telling his story for him. But like I would say, you know, so much of his hype was built around the stories that were told on the internet and getting to see all the amazing things that he was doing. And so when you take somebody who's already like a phenom and a great athlete, and you
Mm,
combine them with great storytelling, that's when the impact like goes up to a whole nother
mm-hmm,
level. Like the stories aren't as meaningful if they're not coming from a standpoint of somebody who's doing something really remarkable, or somebody who's
Yeah.
overcome some significant tragedy. Those two things together sort of
Mm.
allow sort of this leveling up within that space. But I don't think social media is going away. I don't think online branding and building a big personal brand is going
Yes.
away. And so everybody has to decide for themselves
Mm.
what they want to do, what they want to commit
Mm.
to. And it's a lot of work. If you look on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, like there's no
Yeah.
like accidental personal
Mm.
brands. Like maybe once in a while somebody like catches a rocket and like explodes because they had some one thing viral. But anybody who's building a personal brand, athlete or
That's
otherwise,
true.
is literally doing so through the daily
Mm.
commitment to building content and telling a
Mm.
story and doing it in a remarkable and innovative way.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. So I've got three more questions to go.
Okay.
My next question is, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, I would ask you, Coach David, officially.
Yeah.
Um, I would say if we were fast forwarding the next 365 days and we were talking on this day in 2025, how would
Mm.
you know the last year had been successful?
Um, I would say through the impact that we've made in young people's lives, and that impact at the moment, what something that we never did in the past was to we always did our sessions in the past, but this year we're more focused on things like tournaments. Um, and these tournaments are to really hone in and see talent and really to kind of get to know a lot of the guys a lot more better, but also to actually now say, listen, come and compete and let's put XYZ into your pocket for achievements, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I know money is not everything for that, but the reason why for me I think is an important part is because when it comes to sports in the UK, especially when it comes to basketball in the UK, grassroots don't really get, not even grassroots, even the pros, they don't get a lot of that.
Right.
So if I can say to myself, if I can partner with an organization and say, listen, we have some great talent here. I want to bring 16 teams to this venue and I want them to compete for £10,000 winning prize. For me, that's a life changing experience for some players
Yeah.
because those guys aren't making that every month
Yeah. Yeah.
playing professionally in the UK. Most people play for free in the UK as well. So in my head, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, how can I change people's mindsets this year in terms of what they're capable of? And if I can say, okay, cool, you can actually make money from playing this sport in another way other than just playing pro, then why not? And then eventually, if I do start a pro league in the UK, which I will, that's going to be the same sort of process that we'll take where you're not just coming to play for a team and you're earning 25 grand a year or 30 grand a year. You're coming to play for a team where you're going to make an impact and you're maybe making 100K a year, 200K a year, maybe more, maybe a million a year, basically. But those things have to start from the little things that we do now, which is obviously the tournaments, basically. So that's how I would know that we've been successful.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What's okay? I'm gonna ask you one
Um,
more. I'm gonna ask you one more. Ha!
okay,
Um,
go on,
what is
go on.
what's something that's not true currently that you want to be true a year from now?
That's not true currently
Yeah.
in terms of myself or in general.
However you want to answer it, man.
Um, something that's not true currently is I think Barcelona Nation really having a huge impact in basketball in the UK. It's still quite, as much as people know us, we haven't really had a major impact. And the reason for that is because a lot of, like, there's been a lot of setbacks and adversities um, over the last few years that we're also trying to fix.
Yep.
So because I think the way we see sports and the way we see basketball is such a an important thing. So we may partner with certain organizations to say, guys, work with us to maybe do our free sessions every week. But for them, they don't see how important that is to or how urgent that is to make happen. Because, for example, we need to book an indoor court, but then we find that the indoor court is not available, but we have to do it in a certain area based on the company that we're working with or
Right.
the organization that we're working with. So they won't see it as serious as we do. So they could actually be like, oh, yeah, we'll book it on the Friday before the Saturday. But like, no, we need to book it 3 weeks in advance. But their financial
Yep.
structure
Yeah. Yeah.
is different. So, so things like that. Um, has set us back quite a bit. Um, and I think for next year, which is why this year what we've been focusing on is funding. So actually getting our own funding ourselves to be able to do those things that we're doing with other people at the moment. Um, so that we don't have to have those restrictions or those setbacks, but really make an impact in the community and not just London as well. We want to go all over the UK. We want Basketball Nation to actually be in all the main cities in the UK as well. We've already started with Manchester, and that's growing. We want to be able to go to Birmingham, Liverpool, Scotland, like so many other places. So I would say for that question, that's my answer on the true.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
Cool. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Next question is you have to, this is going to be a difficult one for you, by the way. You have to start, bench, trade Michael, Kobe, LeBron.
On camera and
Yeah.
everything, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's answered it. Even
Well,
PRC
I'm just
answered it
gonna
very
stay.
well.
I'm just gonna stay true to me, man. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
MJ. I'm gonna put Kobe on the bench. I'm
Hmm.
gonna trade Braun.
Okay. Cool.
I
That's
mean,
good. It's
you
good. Thank you
can't
for being
you can't
truthful.
really lose. Like that.
It's true.
Like
Yeah.
there's huge value, but like MJ, just for me, like he'll always hold the top
Mm.
spot as great as those other guys are.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt from Ballers Life said that he would trade LeBron, but he would get a lot of good pieces for him from other teams. So
Yes, great point. Like you're
that
not
was
trading
his that
LeBron
was
for
his take.
pennies. You're getting some value back.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. 100%. Hundred
What
percent.
would you say?
Um. I would put LeBron first. Um. I'll put LeBron first to start. Kobe off the bench,
You
and
trade
I'll
MJ.
trade Michael Jordan. Yeah. Yeah. I love MJ. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, but I don't know what it is, but for me, I feel like LeBron's the greatest, man. That's just me. And I grew up watching Kobe as well. Kobe's my favorite player. So yeah.
Oh
So yeah,
man,
but I don't know. There's something
you
about
could
LeBron.
you could spend a whole podcast just debating on who's the goat. So
No, 100%, 100%, 100%. So and there's a few other goats stepping up as well.
hmm
Let's see what happens to Wemby in the next few years. So now that we're talking, so yeah. But yeah, so and then my last but not the least is who would you like to see or invite onto this podcast?
I mean, you already said it. Jordan
Hmm.
Rogers is one of my best friends. We were on the journey together at Nike. We're on the journey together
Hmm.
personally as friends. So I think you garner a lot from all the work that he's doing, specifically in the sports marketing
Hmm.
space. He's
Hmm.
brilliant, man, and is really added a lot of value to people. So that's my
Hmm.
that's my recommendation.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you, John. This has been an amazing conversation. Trust me, I know we can go for even like another hour if we wanted to. But let's give them just a little bit of taster now for the future anyway. So I know we will definitely be speaking again. But thank you for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate you taking your time out to bless us with your knowledge as well and your story. But yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course, my man. Great to see you, and hopefully I'll be
Likewise.
back over in London again soon and get to see you in person.
Yes. Definitely, definitely. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, Basketball Nation, but also leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about the episode, and reach out to us on Instagram as well, which is also Basketball Nation, Nation with an X. And you on our links, you can actually listen to the podcast on audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and all your listening platforms as well. But hope to hear from you guys. Take care. Coach David out. Peace.